Greetings! In today's video, I'm going to showcase some of the newest creations I've built. So, starting out, I have a couple of land vehicles. This is the first one. It is a retro-futuristic inspired car, and it has a tendency to tip over. Yes. Visually, very striking, I believe. It's got a few little bumps in places that I would like to iron out, but other than that, it tends to be pretty good. It's got pop-up headlights, which I can control individually, which is a lot of fun. However, if I zoom in very closely, you will see the pop-up headlights impact the frame of the car, making it even less stable than it usually is, and increasing the chances of flipping over. That's flaws that I will solve in the future on the next vehicles that I build. Other than that, I am extremely happy with how the rear headlight, the tail lights turned out. And yeah, pop-up headlights, very good looking. I have a few buttons for more lights and stuff. Also, four-wheel steering, because I was having a really hard time getting this car to steer well. So, there we go. And now it's in the drink. For the second car that I will show, this is a drift car. I didn't get it to drift myself, I merely made the frame, and then Yeetify helped me immensely. He just took it into his hands for 15 minutes and suddenly it was the best drift car that I'd never made. Yeah, it's so good at drifting that I don't have to do anything, therefore I can drift it because I wouldn't be skilled enough to drift anything normal. You can also straighten it out, invert the drift. It's very, very controllable, which is surprising for something that I've made. But I guess I will attribute 100% of that to Yeetify because he did an awesome job on it. Particularities of this car are it's single-seated, which my cars are usually double-seated, so it's thinner, which means it's surprisingly more stable as it doesn't have enough, it doesn't have more weight to throw around. And I really like how the front headlights worked out on this one. I spent a little while attempting to glitch things into other things to make that shape. The rear headlights are a little bit boring, but they work. One part I don't like is the transition between the rear spoiler and the head and the tail lights. That one could be a little bit better. But there is the second car. A drifty boy. Now we shall move on to this, which is the Federal Corvette from Elite Dangerous. Complicated shape to achieve in Trailmakers. A lot of hinges and a lot of very patient working so that all of the pieces would merge together correctly. Got it to work in the end. Not particularly happy with the performance, could be better, although that goes hand in hand with my skills with hover pads increasing rapidly. So having them static like this isn't going to satisfy my need for maneuverability anymore. I will more precisely line out what that means in the next build. So essentially, very nice shape, which is really all it had to be for me to like it. And weaponry, fair amount. And then that's about it, really. I really enjoy this build for the complex brick shaping that I managed to achieve on it. The next build is going to illustrate perfectly what I mean by lacking in maneuverability. So this is a spaceship, obviously, because that's apparently all I know how to make nowadays. Not true, but you know, with the Spacebound update, me and my friends have been messing around a lot with attempting to make things viable in a realm where there's no gravity and no friction. This is predating that, but plenty worth showing, not just for the shape, but also for the technology. So the interesting thing about this is, as you can see, the hover pads turn on and off when I'm steering, just as they would on anything else, except the tail thrusters are on hinges and there's hover pads in them. And then also on yaw, there's hover pads yawing and turning. And now you ask, why in the world would you have to turn the hover pads? And my answer is, hover pads don't work just as force conductors, as in they don't work just like a thruster. They work as tail fins as well if you configure them correctly, which means that a turn that, like, yawing like this at any sort of speed would take forever in the Corvette. Let me show you. Like, this is far, far slower to yaw and pitch and everything else, especially when going at any decent speed. Like, this is gonna take absolutely forever, right? To turn around at any decent speed. In this wonderful machine instead, thanks to the set of hover pads being on a hinge, when I'm at high speeds, which is, well, this, but this, if I press 2, this can go even faster. Yeah, I can be going at 500 kilometers an hour and I can turn basically on a dime. I come to a full stop and I've turned all the way around and I'm immediately ready to go in the other direction. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it slightly uncontrollable, especially at high speeds? Sure, absolutely. I'm working on that. My next prototype is going to be, well, the aim is for it to be as controllable at high speeds as at low speeds. However, this is already a very good improvement in relation to hover pads being static. Because, well, it just flips around whenever you want it to. And of course, I have a few, as in 3 hover pad UFO engines in there, which means that it can accelerate to enormous speeds considering its size and the things that are in it. It's like 600 kilometers an hour, or almost 600 kilometers an hour, isn't anything to scoff at, especially for something that's 700 complexity and really heavy. So yeah, it has some weaponry, but this is not made as a combat craft. It's made more as just a cruiser. And the other part that's really interesting about it is it has a working cockpit with reactive things. With reactive screens, quote unquote. like, not really. The cockpits in the game are unsatisfyingly static. However, as you can see, its lights can turn. I've merged lights into the cockpit so that they can turn on and off, and in first person, while doing exploration, you can see what your ship is up to and control it adequately. To continue on the theme of the spaceships, this is the ARGO mole from Star Citizen. It's got this extremely interesting landing animation, which is a really awesome addition on the part of the creators of the ship, and I decided to take it and make it because it was very satisfying to watch. Other than that, it's a little bit slow. I didn't mean it as a agile ship because it's a miner in Star Citizen, so I really don't need this to be the fastest, most combat-ready ship. You can't do mining in Trailmakers, however I did add a bunch of magnets at the bottom as greebles, so you can go around and pick up cargo containers and sort. Other than that, it's really a very simple aesthetic build with a very nice large canopy at the front for people to view out of, and so on and so forth. And the most interesting part, honestly, is just the landing animation, because it's really cool. I will then move on to the Idris from Star Citizen. If anybody remembers this build, this is the old version. I have much improved since then, and I've gotten better acquainted with Star Citizen, so I understand more of what is going on in the game. So obviously this one's bigger than the new version, but that means it can be less detailed. And now this is its kick-ass younger brother, basically. It's the same ship, it's just a lot more accurate to what Star Citizen wanted it to be. It's, well, faster as well, more agile, more maneuverable, and it has the famed giant railgun in the front, which makes me happy. It's not got the firepower directed in all directions as it should probably have. However, it's alright. Like, the fact that it's smaller allowed me to get in so much more detail, and my skill with the decals has improved immensely in this time, in the time in between, as one would say. So I've just gotten a lot better, and I'm a lot happier with this result. It shows my improvement from the old version to this one. This is the RSI Scorpius from Star Citizen. Well, it's right now in its landing configuration because it spawns in that configuration. However, this is its flying configuration. Other than that, the most prominent part of this ship is the way that it steers. I basically tried to take all of the steering with hover pads turning as well ideas that I had, and I pushed them to their very extreme. So this spaceship can, well, do donuts in the sky in many directions, not just in a single one. It's made out of paper, obviously, because it's really thin in a lot of places, and it's got a lot of exposed important components. However, that wasn't necessarily the point of making it. Wasn't to be extremely tanky. It was to be looking nice. Therefore, here we are. It's a very satisfying ship to fly. It's not very fast, but there we go. And there you go. That has been a short showcase of spaceships and cars that I've made in Trailmakers over the past while. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you in the future.